Shankar, this. Some say that elections, certainly in the past, were decided on bread and butter issues, jobs, price rise, etc. But increasingly, we're also seeing elections, Rahul, being decided on emotional issues. You take 2019, for example. I think Pulwama and India's response to Pulwama was a critical factor for the BJP, and it worked for the BJP. Do you see this issue, this whole debate around Sanatan Dharma, having the potential, in a way, not just splitting the India alliance, but boomeranging on it?
Well, thanks for having me on, Zaka. This is just the latest instance of the alliance tying itself up in knots. And if you just give me 2.5 minutes of uninterrupted time, I'll tell you why this will happen more and more often on other issues also. I've jotted down some points that will test the India coalition on two tracks. Number one, the credibility of its message, and number two, as you referred to, the accuracy of its math. First, the message. And let's first look at our screens and look at the pictures. What a lovely sight it is to see India Alliance heavyweights assembled under one roof. Each represents a distinct part of the country. Each represents voters that speak different languages and voice different concerns. What a fine example of India's diversity. I'm sure you'd agree. Also, how lucky we are to have opposition leaders speaking so freely and fearlessly. These battle-hardened commissars are lustily predicting that they will defeat Modi. This is no dara hua opposition, cowering under the glare of an alleged dictator in a thought-to-be-dead democracy. But rather, their confident baiting of Modi and predicting his defeat shatters two myths at once. First, that despite their claims, no major democratic institution, least of all the Election Commission that conducts elections, or the court that is called into scrutinizing the verdict if it is challenged, are compromised. This is what they've been saying. The EC, the courts, all compromised, etc. If they were the opposition, they wouldn't be confidently predicting their own victory had this been the case. Second, the constant barrage of hate and abuse, that too in public, directed at Modi proves he isn't a ruthless dictator, as they claim he is. So, Zaka, today the opposition is undermining its own poll plank, and their number one reason to come together, in their words, they say this is to rescue Indian democracy that is in the ICU thanks to Modi. Clearly, Zaka, it isn't democracy that needs to be saved. It's perhaps the voter that needs to be rescued from the ICU, crushed as he is by the weight of the opposition's contradictory claims. The Sanatan Dharma issue is just another contradiction. But wait, there's more contradiction, let me tell you. The opposition says that the other reason they're uniting is because they need to Jodo Bharat, bring it together. Bharat, they say, is divided because Modi is pitting Hindus versus Muslims, so he can birth a Hindu Rashtra, for example. This message is also based on a profound heresy, and let me tell you why. If minorities were so disaffected, would minority voters have voted for BJP's Tafazzal Hussain from the Bakshanagar seat in Tripura, which has a 66% Muslim population? Would, for instance, the modern-day daykeepers of Mecca, the Saudi royal family, be legitimizing Modi, joining him in a trade alliance? No, they won't. Given that the India alliance message is tenuous, it will hop from one issue to another in the hope that something sticks miraculously. Attacking Sanatan Dharma was just one such opportunistic attempt. It's nothing more. Now let me come to the accuracy of its maths. Here I'll only go by the numbers, and you've sort of referred to some of them. The opposition is banking on maths, as it says. It thinks that by merely unifying behind one candidate per seat, it can prevent anti-incumbency votes from splitting and defeat the BJP. But let's test this. In 2014, the BJP won 190. Let me actually take the stakes up. 190 of the 225 of the seats in the Hindi belt, 85% strike rate with a vote share of 46% plus in the winning seats alone. 46% plus. In 2019, the BJP improved its performance in every 3 out of 4 seats. It won, its vote share was 50% plus. In other words, it had more votes than the opposition and the Nota votes combined. Now that's a huge margin to be ahead. And don't forget, in Uttar Pradesh, the opposition, BSP and SP, even fielded joint candidates. But to no avail. Despite the tall ask, the opposition points to their victory in the 1977 elections over the Congress when they banded together to save democracy, shouting, Indira Hatao, Desh Bachao. But the opposition forgets that only 2 of the Congress's 154 MPs in 1977 were from the Hindi belt in that election. That's not going to change in this one. So even the maths is contradicting its own stratagem.
So,
and of course, there was no democracy under emergency, and the public did not have to be convinced of the message.
On both
Today,
of those issues,
all of that is not true.
On both of those issues, Ghanshyam Tiwari respond. One, this whole idea that the India Alliance is saying that democracy is dead and that Modi has divided the country, Muslims are feeling like second-class citizens. Please explain, the point that Rahul Shivshankar was making. Why then have Muslims, let's say in the by-elections that just happened in Tripura, it's a Muslim majority constituency, more than 60% Muslim population. Why did they vote for the BJP's candidate? And secondly, on the math, and I think UP 2019 was a classic example where the SP and the BSP, the two biggest parties in Uttar Pradesh, joined hands. And yet what we saw was that the vote was not transferring between your two parties. In fact, the SP vote transferred to the BSP candidate much more than the BSP vote transferred to the SP candidate, which is why the BSP had 10 MPs and you have 5. Ghanshyam.
Good evening, Zaka, to you, my fellow co-panelists and the viewers. 3 things are important. The mission of India Alliance is Judega India, Jeetega Bharat. The mission for Bharatiya Janata Party has been that Tootega India, Harega Bharat. The party that has systematically demoralized the poor to the extent that on the G20 summit, you had to put curtains around the poor and put pictures of Mr. Modi, who has been marketing his own poverty for last 10 years, while making one nation, one businessman formula successful for one man to be the richest person in the world. So this reality sinks and demoralizes the poor in the country, and that is why Judega India, Jeetega Bharat. The second, about the various by-elections. We look at the Ghosi by-election. The scale of defeat of Bharatiya Janata Party that has multiple ministers sitting there, chief minister going and campaigning there, making all the tall claims. The scale of defeat that BJP faced in Jharkhand, the scale of defeat they have faced under Mr. Modi's leadership in Karnataka. You can look at one election in Tripura, but if you look at a national picture, at no agenda that connects the common man, BJP is truthful. It is in fact propagandist and is against the common man. Do they recognize unemployment is an issue? They don't. Do they recognize price rise as an issue? This is the party that has turned the price of cylinder that used to be between 500 and 600 rupees between 2015 and 2016 to 1200 rupees. And the day that they decrease it to 200 rupees, they start celebrating as Mr. Modi has gifted developed India to the poor of the country. The issue of social harmony, Sabka Saath, Sabka Vikas, Sabka Vishwas. This is a party that sponsored, cheered and sent emissaries such that every day in India, the television debate on certain channels and broadly on social media will be Hindu-Muslim. Poisonous debates where lynching pictures will be put out, and in some way the minds of people will be sown with hatred.
But Ghanshyam, at least on this channel, on this show, you will admit that we don't do that, right? You've been on this show, you're a veteran of this show.
That's absolutely. But I'm saying that look at what has happened in 10 years. That channels like yours has to accept. At least we don't do it. But the reality is what is happening across the country. Look at G20. Did opposition, the India Alliance, threaten G20? No. It was associations related to RSS, BJP that were threatening violence in Haryana, in Nuh, in the backdrop of G20, where the chief minister had to get involved. So the common man agenda is not hatred. Common man agenda is basic prosperity and success that BJP has defeated. My final point is that you tell me one single party that has unapologetically come under NDA alliance. One single party. It's broadly a Tukde gang, one Tukda of Shiv Sena, cajoled here with various tactics, two Tukdas of Paswanji's party, one Tukda of NCP. This is not how you construct India. This is not democracy. Final point. We have a special session of parliament coming up where nobody knows the agenda. This is not the kind of democracy India is aspiring for in 21st century. We want an open democracy, a place which respects everybody and gives a chance for the poor to prosper rather than Mr. Modi to market.